Alright everyone, this is Venus Brown. I'm back with another blast from the past, and this is the last video for our Season 2 of Supernatural. And we're starting with episode 16 called Heart. This episode is a little bit different. Usually it's Dean that has the hots for a variety of girls, has relations with a variety of girls. This time, the focus in that direction is going to be on Sam. Not in the same way, obviously. Very attracted to this girl. He definitely develops feelings for her, and things go a lot further than usually would for Sam. At the beginning of the episode, we're at a nightclub. There's these girls. They're having a good time. One of the girls' bosses, he's asking her to come back to the office, acts like they have other work they need to do, actually hitting on her and not necessarily doing the greatest job of it. She says she has already called him a cab. We get this glimpse of this guy who is just staring at her very creepily. And the next thing you know, she's back at work. Her boss is torn apart on this table. Sam and Dean come talk to the girl, also meet this neighbor that has like a church shirt on. I thought maybe he was a pastor, and he will come up later in the episode. After Sam and Dean leave, there is this creepy guy who it turns out ex-boyfriend who is possessive and controlling, has been freaking stalking her for a while. While Sam and Dean are checking things out around the neighborhood, Dean hears a shot. It's this cop who just saw one of these werewolves, which is what's actually doing these attacks, that ripped him apart and killed him. Dean decides to scope out her ex, who is at a strip club. Sam stays with the girl to keep an eye on her. You can see Sam is really acting kind of awkward. He doesn't know what to do with himself. Turns out he really likes her. After Dean follows this girl's ex back to his place, he finds out that it is actually her that is doing the attacking, and she has just killed her ex. Which makes you wonder, is any of that stalking actually him being concerned about whatever is going on with her? So Dean first gets after Sam for not keeping an eye on her, and by this point Sam has already tied her up. He's been talking. She doesn't believe him. He is trying to figure out what actually went on. They find out she had been mugged. Some of her characteristics changed. That was probably when she got bit. They asked where the bite was, and it was on the back of her neck. They think there might be some chance to save her, and they go back to where the original killings started, where that mugging is taking place, hoping that if they kill the person that bit her, she will go back to normal. Now Sam has to keep her locked up. She is changing while this other werewolf after a young prostitute. Dean gets to the girl. He shoots the guy, that same guy who was the neighbor. He's dying. He starts to change back to his normal self, doesn't understand what's happened. After the girl turned when Sam was in the room with her, she got loose from the chair they had tied her to, tricked her into going into the closet. This is one area of the closet after she woke up the next morning. It's a little harder for her to disbelieve everything that they're saying after seeing that this is what she did. Weren't sure, so they decided to scope out her place, but she caught them and suggested that they might as well do this together. They had their own little sleepover at her place until the sun came up, just to make sure that she wasn't going to turn. The sun comes up. It appears that it worked. Dean decides to leave Sam there to say his goodbyes, and they did end up having sex. But then right after that, they show Sam waking up. She has turned. Sam and Dean had talked to Bobby. He would have known that that wouldn't work. The girl talked to Sam and tried to convince him that he should be the one to kill her because she can't keep living like this. He's got real feelings for her, but because he insisted that he had to do that. Sam is crying his eyes out, and I think just seeing Sam this upset, like he was really crying his eyes out, that even got Dean crying. Right after this single tear drops from Dean's eyes, that you hear the shot go off. Alright, this is episode 18, Hollywood Babylon. Now, I do remember a few episodes, or at least a couple major episodes, where there was like a TV production or some kind of scene work going on, and this is one of those. But it's not one of the ones I actually remember. The episode starts and they are doing this creep scene, which resembles a lot of the beginning of the Supernatural episodes. But there were a couple little things that kind of cued you in that it might not be real. I thought the set itself looked familiar, like something I've seen in another set. And then some of the acting I thought seemed a little contrived. Then she gets to the part where she's supposed to scream, and it is obviously not quite right. You can tell she's having trouble with her scream. This is where they start to show all the cameras. Later on, we see the girl trying to practice her scream, and then she sees this hanging from the rafters. This guy was also seen earlier in the episode talking about some people that had died on set, stories of ghosts on set. Dean is checking for EMF signals, but he is getting nothing, at least initially. Dean actually knows about the actress that leads on this, and he is a bit of a fanboy and goes over to her doing his fanboy thing, what he really needed to talk about. What about this guy that you found that died? And she's a little upset, but says that nobody else is willing to talk about it. So she's kind of been freaking out, so she's actually glad to talk to somebody about it. When she shows who it was, Dean recognizes the guy right away as a completely different actor than the Fred that they said he was. They confront him, find out that he was actually hired to just show up on set, pretend to die, and the whole thing was staged. I really thought after that they would be like, okay, there's not really a job here, this is all fake. They did stay on, and they seem to still be working the case. It wasn't long before there was more fucked up shit going on. We see one of the suits asking irritating questions to the people on set. Then later on we see him talking to somebody who appears to be black and white, some sort of ghost. Then the next thing you see is him falling from the rafters, hung like this and dead. Dean and Sam get their hands on some footage. They see this image for like a split second of what appears to be a ghost, and this is kind of the zoomed in picture of the ghost. Dean seems to be really getting comfortable with this PA position, even though at first he didn't seem to know what the heck was going on and he didn't like it. But also in this position he gained access to information that he might not otherwise gain access to. And in this image, Sam is actually showing Dean information about the ghost that they saw on screen, who I believe was also the ghost that got that one suit hung. They go to the grave site, dig up the lady's bones, burn them, but after that, this stuff continues to go on. So they're like, what the heck is happening that is bringing up these multiple ghosts? Next thing you know, one of the lead guys is getting attacked by one of these ghosts. This fan turns on, and he just gets sucked into the fan. Meanwhile, Sam is checking out more of these videos. He finally realizes some of what this girl is reading is actual real summoning spells. They go and talk to one of the show producers. They find out all of this realistic stuff that was in the show was actually put in by somebody they thought was a PA named Walter. Well, Walter apparently is not a PA. He's somebody that they allow on set because he was the actual original creator of the show. They realize that Walter is probably pissed off at them screwing up their movie. Maybe he is responsible for everything that has been going on. And then the next thing you know, you see Walter confronting the guy they had just talked to, and he's apparently decided that now it's this guy's turn. The guy almost gets killed. Sam and Dean show up in time to save him from also getting sucked into the fan, and then the guy conjures up all three of these ghosts at the same time. They're trying to deal with these ghosts, trying to talk Walter down, and trying to explain this shit to the other guy who is not getting it, who doesn't believe for a second that this stuff is real, and as he's experiencing it, he's understanding that, well, it is in fact real. So they're just going through this back and forth, trying to deal with him in his current state and trying to deal with this stuff. At some point, the spirits like disappeared, so they couldn't physically see them with their eyes, but they were able to use the phone. And eventually, Walter breaks this talisman that he's been using to summon the spirits. I think the spirits were already pissed off, honestly, because he's summoning them to have them murder people for him. This isn't of their free will. This is his will. They get to take vengeance on him. And at this point, he is taking video of Walter getting killed by all of these spirits. And it's kind of cool because you can see the one image where it looks like there's no spirits there, but you can see him being torn apart. The phone showing the same image with all the spirits in it, tearing him apart. And then next thing you know, they're actually using this on set as part of their TV show, since now they know that you can use the cell phone to catch these spirits. And Sam does not seem very happy about that. He goes to find Dean, who is hitched up in this trailer with the lead actress. They appear to have been having quite a good time, and that's all of that episode. This is episode 19, called Folsom Prison Blues. These people are opening up a wing of the prison that apparently has been closed off for a while, and then you see the signs of cold coming from their mouth. Then after that, they show this whole prison wing being used for prisoners, and you see another sign of cold. This guard comes down to check on what the fuck's going on, and he gets attacked by some sort of mystery spirit or something. Sam and Dean, they seem to be like robbing a place of odd weapons. Maybe that's some way that they might get weapons occasionally, but it just struck me as a little odd and not their typical thing. Then we see them getting caught and arrested in that same act all over again, and we saw at the introduction of the episode that same FBI agent that had been going after them before. So they earn themselves a nice little stay at the Green River Detention Center. A while later, they're in their orange jumpsuits talking in line. Apparently, this whole thing has been intentional. They were caught on purpose to try to help some friend named Deacon. Before you know it, Dean is getting himself into altercations with the other guys in the prison. Then the guards come up to break them up and send them to solitary confinement. When I saw this guy, I was like, he looks familiar. And for some reason, in my mind, I was thinking he's like a really bad guy. I could swear he was in an episode like this. I didn't know if it was this show or some other show. Just kept thinking he's a really bad guy. While they're in solitary confinement, this spirit shows up. Dean warns the guy to be still, but he doesn't. He goes and peeks out the little peek hole in the door, and this thing goes after him and kills him. Around this time, Sam is talking to one of the other inmates. Turns out this is one of the guys that was around when the last killings happened. Was there a long time ago when other deaths were occurring. Sam thinks that there's a lot of blood that was left by one of the killings that happened, and that maybe that is why this spirit is attacking the prison. So Dean creates another distraction that gets him put in solitary again, while Sam goes. So he finds the cell with the mattress. It has blood all over it, sets it on fire, but that does not solve the problem. The spirit attacks again while they're in solitary. Dean realizes he can use the salt that was given to him for his meal and splashes salt all over the spirit, which turns out to be some sort of female that looks like a nurse, not a male prisoner, and not one of the guards. So Sam and Dean both go back to this guy to get more information, let him know that this was a nurse. They find out that he was also around when this nurse was around, but he was not there when she died. He did give them her name and other information, so they were able to find a little bit more later, but they had to get some strings pulled to get that information. Dude, we got to this part, and I really thought this guy was gonna fuck them up, because I was really thinking this guy's supposed to be bad news. This is Deacon, the friend that Dean is supposed to be helping out to get rid of this spirit from the prison. And before this happened, Dean actually had talked to his lawyer to try to get more information about that nurse. Deacon actually gives him the information right here and allows them to escape. And they just get out of the prison. Sam says, we're not out of the woods yet, and the sirens start going, so they're on their way out of here, but barely in the nick of time. After they escape, the FBI agent that's been tracking Dean all this time starts grilling his lawyer, trying to get information from her. She holds her tongue for a while. She does give them some of the information about this nurse and about where she was buried. They've gotten to the cemetery. They get her burning because she gave them the wrong cemetery intentionally. They know they're really gonna have to freaking hide this time. Go really deep in undercover in order to not be found. This is episode 20 called What Is and What Should Never Be. Start out with a little recap of this season to prepare us for the next 2 episodes. This episode gives us a little refresher on what could have been, what would have been, and maybe why that's not such a great thing. So we start the episode and they are looking into jinns. This is what they think is taking out the people that they are investigating now. I actually just watched an episode of a show that deals with religion, the supernatural, and stuff like that, and the most recent episode was actually about a jinn. Except in the episode, 2 religions feuding over somebody who's being affected by a jinn. One of them is Catholic and the other one is Islamic, and they believe that a jinn is not necessarily a demon and they have to proceed in a specific way that might be different from the Catholic religion exorcising a demon. Oh, I remember, it's called Evil. If you're into that kind of thing, the skepticism behind whether religious supernatural things might be real and whether they might be BS, that kind of stuff, it really delves into that. Let's get back to the show. Dean decides to go in and check out what's going on with this jinn without Sam. Sam's like, this isn't a good idea, wait for me, and Dean is like, nope, I'm gonna do this on my own. We'll just say that Dean got jinned. Dean got jinned. Now Dean wakes up, he's next to this girl that he doesn't know, has been sleeping with her, calls up Sam, doesn't know what's going on, and Sam reacts in a way that I was like, I don't know, I was like, what is going on? But I didn't think too much of it. I thought maybe Sam was misconstruing something that Dean was saying. And then Dean walks over and sees this mail that is labeled to Carmen Porter from Lawrence, Kansas. And he's like, Lawrence? And there's more mail with his name, like this is just his normal life. It wasn't until after this happened that it occurred to me this is some kind of alternative reality induced by that jinn. Dean decides to go check out the place where the old house used to be. House is still there. It never was destroyed. Everything was fine. And not only that, he knocks on the door and his mom answers. I'm telling you guys, this episode got me in the feels, really did, and a lot of it was just pulling at my heartstrings. And since Dean understands that this stuff is all great and everything, but this isn't the reality, the last thing he was working on was jinns, he goes to a professor who studies mythology. This is kind of interesting to me. My oldest kid really likes the whole mythological gods and stuff. This professor studies anthropology. I always thought that would probably be a very good topic area for my kid to study. I don't think he sees the value in that. I know I am going way off topic over and over. It does lead to these videos being a lot longer than what I originally planned. Let's get back to the point. So he goes to this professor looking for information on jinns. He's also speaking as if these things are real. He's like, are you drunk or something? And Dean's like, for once, I'm sober. So Dean goes back home. He wants to stay with his mom. He's not going to get an opportunity like this. Dean and his mom are talking and there comes this suggestion about mowing the lawn. And Dean is all excited about mowing the lawn. And his mom is like, okay, be my guest. He goes out there. He's all happy. He's waving at the neighbor across the street. This is the greatest thing. But I love it because Mowing the lawn is actually one of the things I enjoy doing. I don't do it that often. For me, it's an opportunity to get away from everything else, get outside of the humdrum everyday things that are going on in my life, think about what's really on my mind. What do I really want to be thinking about? What do I really want to be working on? Or what has been an issue in the past and how do I want to look at it? That kind of thing. See, I'm going off in left field over and over again. It's just crazy. Now, in this alternate reality, it is Sam and Dean's mom's birthday. And Dean has completely forgotten about this. Probably got overshadowed so much that it wasn't really something they thought about. They're celebrating, and then he gets up and he sees this. The second time he's seen this creepy looking girl. She shows up, then she disappears again like she did the first time. Nobody knows why he's done this, what he's looking at, because they don't see. And they're all just kind of staring at him. And he goes back home. He's watching the news. He looks in the paper and there's more news about these awful things that happen. And every single one of them deal with things that Sam and Dean had taken care of so that these awful events didn't actually happen. That was one of the previous episodes with the little girl that had the spirit that was trying to convince her to jump in the pool and drown. And that gives him a kind of way to see the downside of this alternate reality that seems so great. Dean picks up on that because they never were part of this hunter world, he never built this relationship with Sam. So Sam and him feel like they have nothing in common. They don't hang out together. They don't have that loving brotherly relationship that they do as hunters. This freaked me out a little bit, and for a split second, I thought maybe in this alternate reality, he's like some kind of gross serial killer. This is more like an image that's coming up because of what's really going on. It is like a flash. It goes away and then you see nothing in the closet. So that very quickly verifies that Dean's not some crazy serial killer. I at least pick up on that very quickly. So craziness. And I have watched all these episodes, but it was a long time ago. So many years ago. And I really don't remember most of this stuff. There are little bits and pieces. Like the next 2 episodes, I probably remember a good considerable amount of them. And I already have a short-term memory problem anyway. So if this stuff hasn't gotten in my long-term memory, I'm not likely to remember it. In this alternate reality, Dean's dad is dead, but he died of natural causes, which he actually commented to his mom earlier that was great. The alternative could be so much worse. And she's like, what? Like, are you serious? His death is not a peachy thing. Either way, he's at his dad's gravesite. He's talking all these other things that are awful and terrible. But when it all comes down to it, why should saving these other people be his main concern when he could have this wonderful life? Sam wakes up to what he thinks is somebody breaking into his mom's house. He comes down, finds that Dean's doing these things and saying these things that he finds weird. Even in alternate reality, Sam is going to have some of his typical characteristics. He's more empathetic than Dean. He picks up on emotional things, out of character behavior, and so he is naturally concerned. Why are you acting the way you are, and why are you saying the things that you're saying? Because some of the things that Dean is saying sound like the kinds of things that somebody might say when they're getting ready to do something that might end their life. And Dean tries to tell him everything is going to be all right, calls him Sammy for the second time in this alternate reality, which Sam had previously said, you never call me that. Like, that's a term of endearment that he uses. It's another thing that Sam picks up on, like something's not quite right. Something is wrong. Dean tries to take off to take care of this djinn, and Sam shows up in his car, and he's like, you're not going anywhere. He finds stuff in Dean's car that really is alarming. He finds this cup of blood, and Dean tells him that it's goat's blood, and Sam is like, there is something very wrong. He starts trying to call, and Dean's like, no, you are not having me committed. I have important shit that needs to be taken care of. It needs to be done now, not later. He ends up throwing Sam's phone out of the car, and at least gets Sam to come with him without being a complete ass. Goes back to the place where that djinn had originally djinned him. They get into this part of the building, and these women are hanging there, and one of them is that creepy girl that Dean keeps seeing. But the other two are those dead women that he saw hanging in his closet earlier. And I think two of the women are actually dead already, but this woman is still alive. At least barely. And then the djinn comes in, they go and hide, and this girl starts to come to, and she's crying, asking for her daddy, and the djinn puts his hand on the side of her face, telling her to sleep. Dean's not the only one that's kind of catching on that this alternate reality isn't the real thing, and that he might need to get out of it. It looks like this girl at least had come to for a little while. And I know I'm taking a long time with this. I hope that's okay. Sometimes I get really carried away. Originally, when I started doing these, I wanted them to be very fast recaps, but I'm not good at the fast recapping stuff. At the same time, I hope that when I don't have a lot of interaction and I don't have a lot to say, that that's okay too. But it's going to take me a little longer to edit it because I'm going to have more stuff that I have to go through to figure out what I keep in and what I take out. Sam is trying to argue with Dean about how he was wrong, that okay, it is real, but we need to get the fuck out of here. This is not something we should be messing with. And Dean is like, no, we need to take care of this because this girl is gonna die. I get you're freaking out, but we need to take care of this. Dean has this argument with Sam. He pulls out this knife covered with lamb's blood. They say that if I cause myself this massive amount of pain, that should wake me up from the alternate reality or the dream state or whatever it is. But then when Dean seriously is about ready to stab himself, all these people that he's been seeing in this alternate reality show up all of a sudden. And his mom appears to be in that same white nightgown that she was in when she actually died. They, at least in some ways, are conscious. You have your mom alive. Your family is normal and intact, and you're not part of this monster hunting world, but this isn't reality. There's all this negative shit going on too. I am going to die if I don't get out of this. But they're trying to convince him that he should stay in this dreamland. Even though you will only physically be alive for a couple days, it will seem like years. I mean, I think we all know this is not Dean. Dean is not gonna want to allow this stuff to continue. Dean knows he needs to come back to reality. He does finally stab himself, which does bring him back to the current situation that he's actually in, hanging there in this djinn's lair with his life slowly draining out of him. When we get further into the djinn lore, it's because these djinns are feeding off of these people. This genie gave you your wish, but the genie is also sapping off of your life. He is hanging there, and Sam is actually there trying to save him, trying to get him down. And then the djinn comes in. The djinn tries to go after Sam. Dean stabs the djinn, saves Sam, and then the djinn falls. You see them a little later, and Dean sees this ad. Has a picture of the girl that in his alternative reality was his wife or girlfriend or whatever she was, and his favorite beer, but it's from this advertisement apparently. The last time I think it was Sam was having that talk about how hard all of this is for them. Now Dean is the one that's talking about how hard this is for them and how awful this work that they do is. Now Sam is the one talking him down and being like, yes, but maybe it's worth it because all of this stuff that we're doing really is helping other people. Those people would be dead. And that's the end of this episode. And like I said, I think the next two episodes, They are going to be really the culmination of what the first 2 seasons have really been leading up to. This is episode 21 called All Hell Breaks Loose. It's the penultimate episode. It is also the first part of a 2-part ending to this season. And we start with a recap of a lot of the different players that have had the same issues that Sam had. I think the last one we saw was Ava, who disappeared, and we haven't seen her since then. And we're going to find out what happened to her in this episode. The episode starts and Sam and Dean are at this diner. Sam goes in to take care of some issue while Dean stays in the car, and all of a sudden the radio starts tweaking out, and then you don't see Sam or anybody that was in the diner anymore. So Dean goes in to find out what the heck's going on, but there's somebody dead at one of the tables, and then when he goes behind the cash register he finds these 2 dead and Sam gone, nowhere to be found. Then Sam wakes up in the middle of nowhere, some freaking dreary old town, but we don't know anything else that's going on. Sam starts walking around, and this isn't just an old town. Like, this just looks like a straight up ghost town. And really, really old. One of the buildings he goes into says cobbler. We used to have cobblers way, way back in the day before I was ever born. Shoe repair, sure, but we wouldn't call them cobblers. It looked kind of familiar. Heck if I know where exactly it would be. Later on, we do find out. He starts seeing more and more of those same people that he's been running into that have the powers. Came about at a certain age. A lot of them that had a fire happen in their house. They're all trying to figure out what the heck's going on. All of them are like, I just fucking woke up here, like just now. And Ava is one of them. Sam's like, you have been missing for all this time. And she's like, what are you talking about? I just woke up here. It's been like 2 days. And he's like, no, it isn't. It hasn't been 2 days. It's been months. Each of them has been kind of explaining their specific powers. And the couple that we've already seen before, it turns out their powers have expanded because they've been working on them. Andy's very excited about the kind of abilities that he has now since he's been working on them. This girl's like, oh, seriously? You guys get these awesome powers, and what do I get? Anybody I touch dies. So she is not very happy at all with her powers, while these other people are. Did notice, though, at least at this point, is that Soldier Tally never actually explained what his powers were, or that he even had powers. Eventually, we find out. In the meantime, Dean and Bobby are trying to find out where the fuck Sam went, what the fuck is going on, and they've called Ash. Ash is trying to explain to them that he cannot talk on this line. He's found out something really big, but it's important that he doesn't speak about it on the line. They end up deciding that they have to go to the roadhouse to find out what the heck's going on. Tally kind of goes off on his own, and he's in this creepy schoolhouse and then sees this creepy girl show up, which Sam comes just in time to hit her with an iron poker. After they come out of the schoolhouse, Sam explains that what they saw was actually a demon. He tries to explain what type of demon he thinks it is, and then he sees this bell. Because he recognizes the bell, he realizes where they are, which is Cold Oak, South Dakota. By the time Bobby and Dean get to the roadhouse, it has burned down. They find a hand with Ash's watch on it, insinuating that this is Ash has been burnt to death. They do not see Ellen. They don't know where Ellen is. But this also means that whatever the big news that Ash had, he can't give them. Didn't look like they found anything really to indicate what was going on or what any of this big news was. Andy comes in the room saying, I found something, and he's got 2 huge bags of salt, which Sam has explained to them how the salt can be helpful in whatever they're dealing with. But then when they're outside, they find out that this girl, Lily, has died. She is hung from this windmill. And Sam says something about the fact that she had been trying to leave, and he thinks the demon does not want them leaving this area. Sam had been talking to Andy about how he really wished that Dean was with them because Dean could really help the situation. And Andy's like, like, well, I might actually be able to help you because Andy has this ability to envision other things. So then Dean starts getting these visions, kind of like Sam does, where he's getting a really bad headache and all of a sudden he starts seeing things. Of course, for him, this is just this one image of Sam and this bell. And because he's able to describe the bell a little bit, Bobby knew exactly where that bell was. So he was able to figure out where they need to go to find Sam. And on this part, Sam is getting some help from Tally trying to get weaponry to use. And this is where we actually find out what power Tally has, because he is able to pull this bar right off this wagon wheel. He says that there was this accident. Somehow he was like able to lift up this car like it was nothing to him. And if you remember the situation the last time we had seen Eva before this episode, Sam and Dean found that her fiance was bludgeoned to death when she ended up missing. She can kind of tell something's wrong and that he's holding something back. So he finally does tell her when the demon took her fiance Brady did not make it. Sam had fallen asleep in this dream state he's in. The demon, Old Yellow Eyes, is talking to him. And he explains to Sam that this is kind of a competition to find out who's going to be the winner. And Sam is a little confused. Why aren't you just going to be training up all these people for his army? And he's like, I don't need an army. I already have an army. What I am looking for is one leader. And I think you might be the one. I think you have what it takes. Your dad's been training you all this time, and I think you've got the focus, the training, the smarts, and all of that. And Sam explains, like, you have fucking ruined my life. You've destroyed everything. You have killed so many of my loved ones. Why the fuck you would kill my mother? And he says it was a mistake. Decides to go ahead and do this kind of replay. This demon is trying to get his blood into Sam's mouth. But before his mom came back in the room, there was already blood on his lips. He was already licking his lips. As soon as he noticed any commotion going on, he could have got his ass out of there, but instead he proceeds to kill her. Another thing is that she recognized him when she saw him. Turns out that Eva is actually going after these people and killing them. She breaks one of the salt barriers and summons this demon, who then goes and murders Andy. Sam fairly quickly figures out that there was other stuff going on because he saw that the salt line was broken, and he said there's no way that Andy would have done that. He picked up on the fact that Eva was actually missing for 5 months. Turns out that Eva has been here for that 5 months, picking them off one at a time. And she said after a while it got pretty easy, and top that off, powers expand so much and so easily in this place that they're at. And right around this time, Dean show up. Tally and Sam are in this big fight, and of course Tally is much stronger than Sam, beat the crap out of him. Sam manages to get his hands on the iron bar that Tally had and hit him with it, knock him out. Sam freezes up and stops himself. And just as Bobby and Dean were coming in, Tally comes up from behind and stabs him in the back. My kid and I were talking about this, and I knew that Sam was supposed to die. And my kid's like, there's not much blood. Like, it doesn't look like he should die from this. And I kind of agreed, but I was more like talking about the area. It's not like there's a bunch of vital organs right where he was stabbed. There isn't that much blood, and you could certainly die from a stab wound like that, but I wouldn't think it would be that fast. And I'm honestly surprised that neither of them have tried to bring their father back yet, but I know that's coming. It may have been that Dean has been very adamant he's alive when he doesn't feel he should be. He feels like it's unnatural and it's wrong and it shouldn't happen. But we know that is going to change. And that is the end of this episode. The grand finale, the second part of this big competition, is coming up on that last episode of season 2. Right, this is episode 22, the second part of the season 2 finale. All hell breaks loose. Just to confirm, Sam is dead. He did die. But how much does that really matter in the Winchester family? Bobby's trying to get Dean to come with him, trying to get him to open up, just mostly because he doesn't want him to be alone, and says he could really use his help. Something big is coming. Could be world ending. Dean just yells to let it end, asking, hasn't he given enough? Hasn't he already sacrificed enough? He ends up pushing Bobby, tells him to go, and then he backs off, saying, sorry. Just go. At this point, Bobby knows he's not going to really be able to get through to Dean, so he leaves and tells him, you know where I'll be. Old Yellow Eyes has shown up right in front of Jake, and he's telling him how awful things are going to be if he doesn't do what he wants. One thing. If it really was that one thing, there's no good reason for him to have had all those people killing each other. He could have had this next quest just be another job that they need to do in order to win their competition. But the reality is he's looking for a leader of his demon army. Like I said, Sam has died, and Dean starts trying to say his goodbyes, and it sounds like real goodbyes until he gets to the end, but he says that he just blew it with his brother, that his only job was to take care of him, to watch out for him, and he failed at it. That he just lets everybody down and disappoints them. And then he starts yelling that he doesn't know what to do. So he takes off like a bat out of hell, and I guess he's decided exactly what he's gonna do. He goes to that crossroads to make a deal with the demon. They go back and forth. He offers 10 years. She doesn't want anything to do with it. He keeps going down and down, and she's like, you can keep going down as far as you want. I'm not going to do this. And then Dean's like, wait a minute, like, what can I do? And she's like, well, first off, stop groveling. Nobody likes a needy person. Insists that she has this blind spot for him. She's going to go ahead and take his deal, but all he gets is 1 year. Then her soul is his. And she says that if he finds any way to wiggle his way out or trick his way out of this, the deal is off, and Sam goes back to dead. Sam's woken up. He's noticed that his back is all fucked up, but it's miraculously healed over, yet the back of his shirt is all covered in blood. Sam insists that they need to go talk to Bobby now. Dean's like, can't we just stop? Take a rest just for a little bit? You just got seriously hurt. You need to rest. And Sam is like, no. They get over to Bobby, and Bobby is looking like, what the fuck did you do? You can see in his eyes, and Sam picks up on it too, but he doesn't say anything to Sam. He lets them know about this funny shit that's been going on, where all this demonic activity has been happening, but there's this one spot in the middle of southern Wyoming where none of that is occurring, where it's totally clean. He tells Dean that he has some books he needs to help him bring back into the house. Gets him out there and just lays into him like, what the fuck did you do? Did you make a fucking deal? Did you sell your soul to bring Sam back? Asks how long he got, and Dean tells him that he got a year, and he's like, I could throttle you. He's like, what the hell is with you Winchesters? You, your father? Needless to say, Bobby is really freaking ticked. I think he understands, and he feels bad for Dean, so he does kind of let it go, and then they start hearing something. They kind of hide themselves, then grab this person, and it turns out to be Ellen. Ellen's alive, but she said pretty much everyone else had died. They want to know how she survived. She's like, it was just freaking dumb luck. We were out of pretzels. So while I was gone, Ash calls me up all concerned, tells me about something that he left in the safe, and by the time I get back, the whole place is up in flames and everybody's dead. They ask if she got to the stuff in the safe. Turns out to be a map. Bobby finds out that there's actually these churches that were built in the specific spots which were made by Sam Colt, the same person that created that revolver that is supposed to be able to kill almost anything. And connecting up those abandoned churches, there are railway lines which are made of iron in the shape of a pentagram. None of these demons can go in it, or they will be trapped in it because it's a demon trap. Jake, pulling up Yellow Eyes, is telling him he needs to go to the very center of this place, go to a crypt and unlock the crypt. Yellow Eyes is like, I can't. You do this one thing and then you're all done. He hands him the Colt revolver, tells him that it could kill him, and Jake, of course, holds it up to his head, and the demon's like, yeah, you could do this, but you could also go along with this, and then you would be like royalty, and your family would be in this highest position of royalty. So Jake goes ahead and goes along with it. He gets over there, but Dean, Bobby, Ellen, Sam are all there, and he proceeds to ask how the hell Sam is standing there. He freaking killed him. He cut his spinal cord. That was something I had brought up with the last episode. It didn't seem like there was a lot of blood. It didn't seem like any vital organs. I totally missed that it was in his back, and the guy could have cut his spinal cord. That does make more sense. They're all pointing their weapons at him. This guy can now kind of control them. Tells Ellen to point the gun at her head. He's gonna have her shoot herself. He turns around really quickly. They grab the gun from Ellen. It goes off, and then Sam starts shooting. He is able to open the crypt, but he does fall to the ground, and then Sam shoots him multiple times in the head. Once this gate is open, these demons just all spew out all at the same time. It does result in a split in those iron tracks, so now the demons can get in and out at will. Yellow Eyes gets there, throws Dean head first into a headstone. So Dean gets a pretty bad head injury, and old Yellow Eyes just starts berating him. He's getting ready to shoot Dean. John's spirit comes from the gates of hell and attacks old Yellow Eyes. And Dean had taken that revolver from the gate, so he used it to shoot. Looks almost like he's being electrocuted or something. His skull and bones light up, and then he dies. They have a short little reunion with John hugging Dean and Sam. Nobody says anything, and then he starts to light up until he disappears. Is he going to heaven? Who knows? But they kind of ask those questions and contemplate where they think he might have gone. Yellow Eyes is dead, but all these demons are out all over the place. Sam's like, we have been working up to this all this time, and I don't really know what to say. Dean says he knows exactly what to say, leans down and says that was for his mom. As they're getting ready to go, Sam insists that Dean be honest and tell him if he made a deal. Dean at first just straight up lies and says no, of course not. But Sam knows. He can tell based on how everybody's been acting. He asks how long he gets. 1 year. And then tells him not to be mad at him. Then Ellen and Bobby come up. They talk a little bit about how bad the damage is, that there's probably 100 or 200. They have a whole army of demons out now, and that the war's begun. So Sam and Dean shut the trunk of their car and say it's time to get to work. Okay, they say they got work to do. Until next time, I'll see you when I see you. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you want more content, click subscribe. If you click that little bell and click all, then you'll get more content notifications.